What's up, my friends? Welcome back to another edition of the Ink Zone Club, where we have conversations that are designed to push you from walking in your potential to actually fulfilling your purpose. Now, as you guys that have listened to this podcast already know, the new ones may not, there are conversations we have here that are wrapped around things we know now that we wish we knew when we were younger. And today I'm just going to kick it solo with you guys. I'm going to tell off on myself today. This is going to kind of be more of a light-hearted episode because I've made a series of blunders that are too good to keep to myself. Blunder number one. So just jump right into it today. But a couple of days ago, I actually recorded a podcast episode. And the name of the episode was called We Made It. Poured my heart into it. Pushed the content out. And come to find out that I was logged into the wrong account. So I'm trying to post the clip, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? I don't see any other episodes. Come to find out, I posted this and had to create another show called The Anthony Show just to get the content out. It wouldn't allow me to export it, maybe to like a file, and then log back into the correct account and then import it here so I can post it for the listeners who have been with us. So that one episode is out under a podcast called The Anthony Show. That's probably because it's only got one listen, which is me. You'll probably never find it. Kudos to those who do take the time to find it. And then if you find it, so kudos. And I mean kudos to those of you who can go out and find it. But yo, so that was blunder number one. And I'm sitting up here batting 0 for 1 at this point. And I'm feeling like, man, I just put out some great content. And nobody's gonna hear it, right? But my blunders don't stop there. Blunder number 2. So we are a week removed from our annual football camp. If you get a chance, jump over on my YouTube page, kind of see some of the content that was posted. I did like a behind the scenes vlog. One of my co-workers, one of my trainers actually, for years has been telling me, "Anna, you need to vlog some of the stuff that you're doing, put it out there. That way people who have never been around, people who don't see it, that, don't understand the weight of what we are trying to build. That way they can see it in real time." So finally this year, he reminded me like the day before, "Hey man, I need you to go home. I need you to film some of this stuff and put it out there." So I've done that. So if you can find my YouTube page, / Vica, VICA_specialist. That is my YouTube link, or you can just go to the top of my profile, which has links to predominantly all of my social media accounts. You can find me on the various platforms because every platform shows a different side of what we do with our outreach. But with the camp, did a vlog and it's out there. So I'm not going to talk much about the camp. What I want to talk about after the camp, we were short on volunteers this year. And we really needed the volunteers. Didn't have it, so it forced us overtime to have to work even harder to get everything set up, as well as torn down to get it put up. And then away from being put up, I had to rent a U-Haul vehicle to get everything there, get the U-Haul back, get home in time, take a shower, and basically start recuperating. But on the tail end of that, at my age, I was a little tired. Right, my legs felt like jelly. An old proverbial wisdom tip is if you're ever in, especially the South, if you're working in the sun, get some magnesium, some potassium in your system to rebuild you, and it'll triple your recovery time. You can find magnesium in pills, and certain salts are sold that have it. Epsom salt even has it. So, man, a couple days later, I'm walking up a flight of stairs. Oh, I feel so dumb telling this story, but I'm walking up a flight of stairs and I fall. I'm talking about fall, going up the flight of stairs. I wasn't alone, but I was at the back of the pack. So in my mind, I tell myself, Anthony, if you fall quietly, nobody will know you fell. You can pop right back up and act as though nothing happened. But unbeknownst to me, I've become a little clumsier than I realize I am. And man, I not only hit one stair, but I had to double up and pop, I had to hit another one. So my whole idea of falling in slow motion quietly became a fast fall. That boom, now I hit the top of the landing and I'm rolling down the hallway. I mean, it was a very loud, somebody took a fly swatter and slapped somebody with it sound. The young man in front of me, immediately turns around. And he was like, oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay? Man, I can't even laugh at old people falling. And that even hurt my feelings a little more, like, not even just the fact that I fell, but he had this idea in his head of a Geritol old man falling and breaking every bone in his body. Now, I know you're listening to these stories and you're wondering, and how are you going to tie this into a positive message, as though you always do? And you're right. Maybe I don't have a positive tie-in. But one thing I do say in honor of Father's Day, as I'm rehashing these stories, I have been blessed to be surrounded by great men, great fathers, who ultimately are the best storytellers. Every time they told a story, there was always this interwoven idea of truth and a philosophy of understanding to gain from it. One of these takeaways that I take away from these kinds of experiences, that in every story there is a silver lining. There's a silver lining because I feel like there's nothing that we go through in life that God ultimately doesn't have a greater plan, a greater lesson, a greater level of understanding from that experience that we gain. Now, as a father, these are the kinds of stories that I like to basically be able to give my kids, that nothing happens by happenstance. Nothing you face just happens by chance. There is always a learning experience in this. Some people go through life and they're hit with a traumatic experience. For me, falling is one of my greatest fears. I always fear falling down in front of other people. Don't ask me why. That's just me. So when that happened in that moment, I was kind of paralyzed with fear, just to be honest with you guys. But I don't get bitter, I get better. Maybe that teaches me to address maybe some unhidden, conscious, traumatic experience in my life that I've just never thought about, or maybe it's just one of those things that I have to give to God. But there is this reality in life that my father and the other men in my life that have provided me a sense of stability, security, provision, in some sense of the word, there are some things that I have gotten from them that have helped me to not be bitter, but to be better in life, to understand, and that you were never a victim, but ultimately what God is allowing you to face is for your betterment. Oh, that's how they do it in the Army. I'm not in the Army. But for me to be sitting here this morning just reminiscing about Father's Day, I am the kind of man, I do take a lot of joy in being there for my kids. Like I sat down with my youngest son last night. Actually, let's rewind that back. So yesterday, I lit the grill up. My wife had been at a funeral. One of her cousins passed. So there's a small contingency of my wife, my daughters, my in-laws, my oldest brother-in-law. They went to the funeral to properly grieve. So I'm here to hold down the fort. And one of the ways I know to hold down the fort is, hey, let's just make Father's Day. Let's do something. So, needless to say, light up the grill, get some beef ribs going. I'm in here mixing up rubs. Boys are asleep, they're doing their things, but we know, hey, we're going to eat. And then afterwards, we're going to go to the movies. We're going to let you guys pick out what you want to watch now, just as a plug. You know I'm an 80s baby. So first and foremost in my mind, Michael Keaton is on the TV screen again, and he is my favorite Batman, right? If I can't see Keaton, I will be equally as happy to see, you guessed it, Optimus Prime. But to my dismay, none of the boys want to watch the movies. They want to see Spider-Man. Spider-Man. Now, let me not be biased here, because Spider-Man was the first superhero that I actually connected with. Y'all copying that? But I didn't want to see Spider-Man. It's a cartoon. I want to see Optimus Prime or Michael Keaton, which take me back to my young days. But they don't want to see that. But as a father, just to have the opportunity of seeing your sons grow up and be able to make a decision for themselves. Wasn't the decision I wanted, but it wasn't a bad decision and it wasn't a wrong decision, and I enjoyed the movie. But the bigger point in the picture is that we got a chance to eat together, to spend time together, and I got a chance to buy them a movie. Yes, you're grown. Yes, you're a little bit bigger, he's smaller, whatever the case is, but I'm able to, let's just enjoy the moment. And these are where memories are made. I think about a lot of times as a kid when I was growing up, you often see dads as the lawgivers. And I have to bring this up because there are a lot of people, unfortunately, that don't have the opportunity of having, air quotes, a father. But I do feel like God always puts people in that position in your life. At least you won't miss what you need. But because I was blessed to have a father, I do want to bring it up because I always saw him as a lawgiver, always as somebody that always was telling me the do's and don'ts of life. And I didn't probably understand how significant this would be later on down the road. But the discipline I got from my mother was different than that of my father. As a boy, as I was growing up, my mom was able to discipline us. But you get to a certain age with a young male lion especially, where he really needs to have conversations with his dad. He needs to have the respect of his father, because he gets to a point where he feels stronger than his mother. And sometimes he'll respect her, but that fear that he has for that bigger lion is different. And all older men, when I was growing up, used to have these conversations where now they know they're stronger than their mother, so now they wanted to try their father. And just through attrition, they realized that wasn't a great look, it wasn't a great opportunity. All young men aren't like that, but just to have that sense of having positive male affluence, influence, reinforcement, affirmation in their life coming from a father figure, it prepares you a lot more for what's ahead. Because now that I'm a father, that sense of discipline that my dad was putting in me, I wanted to watch TV many days, but guess what? The car needs to be fixed. So what happens anytime a dad is doing a project? He puts the tools and the flashlight in his hand, son, and is like, here, hold this. And sometimes I would be standing there with a flashlight for 2 hours. I can't see anything. I'm trying to look to see what he's doing, and he needs me to hold it here so he can see what he is doing. And man, these stories would just go on and on for days. But now that I'm in that same boat, but now, hey, I just got through fixing the garage door. And I remember just that example of working with my father. The confidence it now instills in me that the wall needs painted at home, guess who can paint it? The dog tears up something on the porch, guess who can fix it? Carpenter, we just found carpenter bees in our front post, in the front post of the house, tearing up one of the beams. Guess who knows how to go in there and get them out? Or we have a garden growing in our yard. Y'all, we have tomatoes and strawberries, asparagus, and beans, and different things growing, and cucumbers. Guess where that sense of horticulture and learning to provide for your family came from? It came from lessons that were put in my life from my dad. Because I understand that it takes two. The women, I always say this, the women are doing such a phenomenal job, sometimes having to step up when they shouldn't. That's another conversation. All conversations, all situations are not the same. But what I am talking about, I do think as a society we have untoxically unbalanced ourselves in this way where we only honor that our women are doing, which again, shout out, hats out to them, they're doing a phenomenal job. But it shouldn't come at a position where it's disrespectful to the men that are playing their roles, not just as fathers, but mentors, as teachers, as coaches, as, on the job, being the big brother on the job, putting in extra time, teaching and training other people the craft. There are a lot of other roles that all of us play. We should be able to lift up each other without tearing anybody down. And that's where I'm getting at. So today for Father's Day, I am only highlighting fathers. I want to tell you guys thank you. Thank you for all you've done. Thank you for the weights that you've carried. Thank you for being in a position where sometimes you have cried tears that nobody has known about. Sometimes you've woken and you've been unable to sleep because you have weights that you're carrying because the burden of responsibility has fallen on you in a way where you can't sleep, trying to figure out how am I going to do this? Or you're thinking about everything you carry that sometimes you don't even want to bring home. These are the kinds of guys I say, I see you. And I'm not saying women don't do the same thing, but I will lift up mothers on Mother's Day because, again, we know that without women, none of this can happen. But there is still a natural order in place where God has given men certain assignments to carry out. And if we can't have these honest conversations without fear of reprisal or being politically incorrect, something is wrong. So I take great joy this morning as it is Father's Day, and even some of my kids have already made early morning Father's Day posts. That touches me. My oldest daughter made a Father's Day post, and she's got pictures in the form of a collage all throughout her life with me in it. And to be able to see that, it's touching to me. Some people have had fathers in and out of their life. They'll come in and then they're gone. They come in for a season, they leave for a great while. And it leaves trails of residue, of pain, of hurt in their lives. There are young people now that are listening to this podcast that have made a lot of bad decisions just because they didn't have just the constant love of a father in their life, to be able to look in the eyes of a man and to say, that's what I want to be when I grow up. For example, you ever raised dogs? Mama gives birth to the puppies, but you watch dad, the way he interacts with the puppies is different than the way mom interacts. Mom will train them on many different things, but sometimes that sense of toughness, that sense of security, there are things that dad provides these puppies that prepare them. It's the same thing with lions. If you watch what happens when the young men are taught to fight, taught to protect, taught to care for the lionesses in that pack, when the father comes around, he understands his assignment. When these great threats come against my pack, I'm going to be the first one that's going to lead by example. Some of you young men right now that are listening to this podcast and you're hearing it's Father's Day and it kind of hurts you because you don't feel like you've had a man involved, or maybe he's here but he doesn't understand how to play his role. My prayer for you guys is you got a voice and God hears your voice. Take the time. Take the time to say, God, I want to be this kind of man. Or I am looking for this in my life from a healthy viewpoint. I'm not talking about people that are going to capitalize on your pain. I'm not talking about people that have need to come in your life and make themselves look better, but ultimately people who see the value and potential in your life and that are going to stand in the gap and that are going to bridge the gap. As great as I say Father's Day is, I would be remiss to also not mention that there have been a lot of men at every step I've taken who always looked out for me. I want to tell these guys same as well. Happy Father's Day. Because of the impact they've made in my life, every step, every direction we went, God has been able to take my life higher and higher and higher to be able to do more for my family. So that's it, guys. That's the message. I had some blunders this week that I wanted to share with you guys, but trailblazing a path of understanding through everything I've experienced. One thing I know is that it's all a learning experience, and that's part of what being a father is. Being able to pass down these lessons to the kids in a way that's going to prepare them for life. I never had a grandfather growing up, but I had grandfather-like men. There was a man in the church that I grew up in who used to always, he had a stroke. And this was a guy from South Carolina that worked with his hands, was really ambitious, didn't watch TV. TV to him was devil's handiwork. He'd rather be outside working, doing something for his family. And then to see this strong individual have a stroke, and now he's lost use of half of his body, and he's in a wheelchair. But his mind is still good, and he used to always call me throughout college. Hey, Mitch, I got something I want you to look at. You know, whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. And he was always putting money in my hands. Now, at the time, I'm a young carpenter. I'm a student. I'm learning this craft. And he was always putting it to work. But then there were times when we would sit down after we would finish work, and he would say things like, "You're not in a hurry to get home, are you?" So I always knew there was a lesson. He wasn't just needing me to come work. He was now pouring of himself into my life. And there were a lot of great conversations that come from that. He always built me up, built my confidence up, gave me self-assurance. Man, I'm telling you, brother, you got a mind. You could be a New York lawyer if you wanted to. Nothing wrong with being a carpenter, but brother, you just keep going. Like, man, you made your parents proud, or that young lady you're with, she's going to be blessed to have you. Like, hey, what's your plan? Brother, I love your prayer life. I mean, it was all of these, anything I had my hands in, he was always speaking life into me. And I think that was very, very critical at that time. Because young men, y'all know how it are. Around your friends, you can have a certain persona. But sometimes when you're around more established people that have it together, it sometimes shines a light on me of how far I have to go. But for those kind of individuals to take the time, that have lived life and have been all over the place and have been okay with things, to be able to speak back into me like that, I needed that. And some of y'all need that. And that's why I'm also praying, God, for every young man under the sound of my voice. Let them get what they need. Let them have who they need. Let them never need something and it not be there. I want the attraction for succession, the attraction for progression, the attraction for forward and momentum moving, to build them in the right way versus the laws of death, hell, and evil to pull them into the pits of the wrong way. You'd be surprised when you're trying to get ahead in life and you're trying to go forward, how much easier it is for people that aren't as invested in their potential as you are to provide you with things you don't need. It's nothing right now on this side of 40 for me to call some people up just to put it to the test and say, hey, y'all want to go out and get a drink? I guarantee you I can get 20 people together right now that will sit down with me, have a drink, have a good time, play cards, spades, dominoes, whatever. But if I say, hey, I need 20 people, come together and let's develop this business idea. Let's develop this outreach for the kids. I need 20 of y'all to donate $20. I can't find that. You gotta, these are lessons that people of maturity will share with you, to say sometimes you don't have to follow the crowd. You don't have to go the easy route. The harder route is sometimes to distance yourself from trouble or from things that aren't building you. Not saying hanging out with your friends is wrong, but look at the product, the result of what's coming out of y'all hanging out. Are you growing as a person? Are your ambitions being fed? Do you walk away feeling like you could walk through a wall and build something positive in your community? Do you feel like, man, I'm on the right path to get this bag the right way and to be able to take care of my kids' kids? If these environments aren't building that in you, sometimes you have to start starving that need for entertainment in order to feed the need for growth. It's fine if you don't catch it. It's fine if you don't like it. But I want this seed to be planted in your mind. You can't have both. Not right now, not when you're building. Who was it that talked about he had some broke friends that partied every week and he didn't understand what they were celebrating? Now that guy that had that mindset, I don't understand what you're celebrating, is a multimillionaire. You know what happened? He saw the folly in his ways and was able to build like that. And that's what my father has done for me. That's what the positive men in my life have done for me. They've called me on my stuff, but they didn't tear me down. Ultimately, they wanted to build me up. Too many of us sit around in rooms tearing down people. Too many of us sit in rooms sharing the fault about the faults of others and all the wrong they've done and all of these things. But who sees the good in you? That's a father. A dad gives birth to a child. A dad helps to impregnate the woman. But it's the father that stays around and helps that kid reach his potential. Even when it's tough on him sometimes, he takes away pieces of himself and he gives that child that they may have. He might be hungry, that child might be hungry. If there's one piece of bread, he's going to give it to the kid first. Older people had a different analogy with that. They said that man needs to eat first so he's got the strength to go out and make more bread. But what I'm talking about is him being able to take of himself and give what he needs. I pray for all of you young men and women to have that. The first male experience you have in your home sometimes is the most impactful. So if it's a good example, sometimes you'll walk away feeling very healthy and balanced in your view on men. If you don't have that positive experience where this man wasn't there or different men were there, but none of them brought value, now you have to be careful not to pick up that resume where now you're viewing men in that same regard. This is Father's Day. This is for the men that have stayed, have done their job. Kudos to you. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. My prayers go out to you that you continue to stand fast, hold strong, and be committed to the charge that God has given you. With that said, this is another edition of the End Zone Club. Y'all be blessed.